Mwananchi, tabia zako ziko chini, unapenda kulipa hongo na kutumia njia za uongo, una mipango na hata watoto wa kando, haujui hata majina yao. Kura yako uliuza mainifigo, ukakulia hadi dini, kisha wasema tukuthamini, na wewe hapo hauaminiki, na wewe hapo haupangiki.
Wapi kidero when you need to slap somebody? Complain ufisadi kwani ulidhani t-shirt 50 bob leso siku ya campaign ilikuwa free? Ni 5 year loan investment utalipa kingia parliament. We are one, amani we are one na utumishi kwa wote, utu missing CCTV we were watching. Racial insecurity na job opportunity ni kama mti ya kibiriti, side moja heavy. Usiniambie Kenya kuna umaskini, kwani hizi fat fingers zinaibia nane? Maskando ina threaten our survival. Media define leadership, na sura ukiaka front page na improve readership. Ambia wase wa Twitter wa hashtag hii ama hash reality doesn't make a good TT. Commission of inquiry wanakula commission bila kutupa ukweli, ni kubaya. Baka kukiwa kuzuri unashindwa nini mbaya. Machozi ya perpetrator ineza dilute damu ya victim ilimwagika. After all is said and done, all will be said, nothing will be done. You're not my tribe, but you're my blood type. Like it doesn't have to take tragedy to know that.
Sheria
Well, good afternoon. Karibuni sana. This is the first Saturday of the month of August. Welcome back. The reason I'm so upbeat and full of life is because manze nilipata ile homa ilikuwa ni kama COVID. Manze imeninyorosha a whole week. I've been sleeping the entire week. I couldn't even make it to work on a few days, but I'm glad to be alive. I'm here. Atukufi manze. Hey, we are living here for a long time. The plan is to have a good time and a long time here in our motherland. Santeni sana, this is Sheria Dive for those who are joining us for the first time. Here we talk about the law, but we try to make it a conversation that is easy to understand, because as we've realized in recent months, when the people know what the law says, then they lose their fear. And when they lose their fear, they lose their power. So that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to educate as many of us as possible on matters to do with the law. But remember, it's a discussion as well. So if you have any questions about the things we're talking about today, you can just reach out to us on the socials at Pawa Radio and at James WaNjeri on the socials. We're going to be seeing those questions and we'll respond to each and every one of them. And as well, if you're watching this on YouTube live, you could as well just go and post your question there in the chat section. If you want to say hi to anybody, if you want to just give a shout out, you can do that. We will be looking at that to see your comment, to see your questions. But we have 2 hours ahead of us. Let's make it count. But first, I want to play 2 songs by 2 very good friends of mine. Ben Psycho. Ben Psycho, I was with him in high school. And it's just been very interesting to see how his music career has gone. He's a bigwig now in the music industry. And after that, will be followed by Mr. Noel Nderitu. Noel Nderitu had a show at Gecko on Tuesday. Fantastic show. I attended that. You guys need to... Do you go for live shows? You need to go for live shows, man. It's a baffling experience, you know, like, oh my God, it was amazing. And the band was neat. Everything was just perfect and fantabulous, if you can use that word, all right? Today, we're talking about abortion in Kenya. I know Kenyans sometimes kuna vitu panani kuongelea about, but remember, the law is neutral. Sheria ni neutral, haina feelings, sawa. So we're just going to be talking about what exactly is abortion in Kenya. Is abortion allowed in Kenya? Are there exceptions? And of course, like every good story, this one begins in a police station. But before we do that, let's get some music. Let's go.
Pawa Radio. Tune in and power up.
Bwana we ni dereva, endesha maisha yangu, chukua na usukani, Bwana tawala.
Bwana we ni mchungaji, ongoza mwana wako, nishikilie mkono, Bwana tawala.
Wewe ni amani ya moyo wangu, chaguo la moyo wangu. Wewe ni
kila kitu changu.
Wewe ni amani ya moyo wangu, chaguo la moyo wangu. Wewe ni
kila kitu changu.
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 Wewe ni
kila kitu changu. Gusa baba gusa yote yanayonihusu.
Tenda baba makuu na miujiza, jionyeshe Mungu, ukitenda unatenda maradufu, pendo lako kamili sio nusu. Bwana Bwana unafanya mema, ukitenda unatenda maradufu, pendo lako kamili sio nusu. Bwana Bwana unafanya mema. Amani ya moyo wangu, chaguo la moyo wangu. Wewe ni
kila kitu changu.
wewe ni amani ya moyo wangu, chaguo la moyo wangu. Wewe ni
Kila kitu changu.
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 maisha yangu, kazi yangu, familia yangu.
Bwana tawala. Ndoto yangu, afya yangu, ndoa yangu, Bwana tawala.
Wewe ni amani ya moyo wangu, chaguo la moyo wangu. Wewe ni
Kila kitu changu.
wewe ni amani ya moyo wangu, chaguo la moyo wangu. Wewe ni
Kila kitu changu. Kila kitu changu. Kila kitu changu. Kila kitu changu. Kila kitu changu.
Power Radio. Tune in and
Haya, I think they're
power
ready.
up.
I think they're ready. Haya, twende hivi. Bila jasho, eh. Bila jasho, eh. Bila jasho, eh. God has been faithful, and we want to celebrate that in song. Are you ready? Here we go. Wewe jiwe na nguzo, kila siku, jana, leo na kesho, mwaminifu, mfalme kaniokoa mimi mwenye dhambi, msaada wangu ni wewe, mwenye nguvu. Haya ni rahisi, tuimbe pamoja au sio? 2, 3, let's go. Say, wewe jiwe na nguzo, kila siku, jana, leo na kesho, mwaminifu, mfalme kaniokoa mimi mwenye dhambi, msaada wangu ni wewe, mwenye nguvu. Ebeneza, umenitoa mbali. Ebeneza, bado watembea nami. Ebeneza, umenitoa
Yeah. Raise the clap. We're getting some church in here. Power Radio. That's not new for you. Just when you think it's over, it's not. It's just beginnings. Safi Sana. Now, welcome back. This is James WaNjeri right here on Power Radio. We have this Sheria Dive show where we talk about matters to do with the law. And today we're talking about abortion. Now, did you know that there are approximately 465,000 abortions that happen in Kenya every single year? Now, based on those numbers, majority of those abortions are actually unsafe. Now, when you look at the mortality rate, unsafe abortion remains a leading cause of preventable maternal morbidity and mortality, okay? And it's also noted to be the highest in Africa. Unsafe abortions actually lead to more women dying in their maternal season than anything else. Now, at least 2,600 women die in Kenya every year from unsafe abortions, while 21,000 women are hospitalized annually due to complications arising from incomplete abortions, whether they are spontaneous or induced. And I know when you talk about abortion, it's always easy to think, it has to have been induced. And I remember hearing some horror stories when I was growing up about people using, hangers to try and abort and all those stories. And I remember as a child actually growing up, there are times, because we had a river near our home, and every once in a while you'd actually find a baby had been dumped there. So a baby maybe has been born and dumped, or it's a fetus that has been dumped there by the river. And this used to make a lot of news. I remember growing up, we would always hear in the news, a child has been found where all this has been happening. And so for a long time, abortion has always been looked at in Kenya as this thing that people do that they shouldn't do. It's evil. Of course, you have the church with its voice on that. But the reality as well is that sometimes abortion is not always induced. Sometimes there are abortions that just occur as a result, perhaps, of a woman's body. Maybe her body has an inability to carry the pregnancy to term. And so this is what we talk about spontaneous abortion. So today we're going to be talking about abortion, and we're going to be looking at a case that made its way in Malindi. And the unfortunate bit is that it involved a 16-year-old child. That this matter went all the way to the Constitutional Court in Malindi. And the court actually had to look at that and determine, was this a case of abortion? Was this a case of illegal abortion? Because now, if you look at the Constitution of Kenya, it says that abortion is legal. However, there are circumstances or exceptions in which abortion can be allowed. All right? Now, I remember in 2019, there was a shocking headline. The African Population and Health Research Center said that about 500,000 abortions had been procured in Kenya. 500,000. Just think about that number. And the reality is, many of these abortions are actually not being done in health centers. They're being done in backstreet clinics. And many people are ending up dead, or you find that maybe it's being done in unsafe environments. And of course, the consequence of that has always meant that it will either end in death, or it can sometimes end in permanent health injury. So, as a society, how do we look at this? Remember as well that the Constitution guarantees the right to reproductive health. Okay? So what does that mean, right to reproductive health, even as you look at questions of abortion? That's the conversation we're having today. If you have any questions about this matter, about abortion, if you have any questions about the topic of discussion today, remember, you can reach out to us on our socials at Power Radio, at James WaNjeri, and of course, on our YouTube live chat, you can also put in your question there. I'm going to be able to see it, and we'll just highlight that to you. But for now, let's get some music. And then when we come back, we start with this case that was in Malindi. What exactly happened? Let's go.
From sunrise to sunset, all day and night. Power Radio.
I don't believe her. There's just something about the way she turned her back on me. I know in my mind I'll never leave her. There's just something about the way we love each other right. And even though we fight all night and day, I know sometimes in love there can be pain. And even though we need a little break, I know that you'll come back to me. You know that I'll come back to you. 'Cause that's when you'll start to feel my love. Feel it. That's when you feel it. That's when you start to feel my love. Feel it. That's when you feel it.
Usiponipenda nitapendwa na nani? Nitakuwa mgeni wa nani? Ukiwa mbali nami nabaki tabani. Ona nahisi kisirani, hawa haina maana. Mimi na wewe kuzozana, mbona tunasimangana? Hatuwezi semezana, my love, haina maana. Mimi na wewe kuzozana, mbona tunasimangana? Hatuwezi semezana.
And even though we fight all night and day,
I know sometimes in love there can be pain. And even though we need a break, I know that you come back to me. And you know that I come back to you. That's when you start to feel my love. Feel it. That's when you feel it. That's when you start to feel my love. Feel it. That's when you feel it.
and even if we fight all night and day, I know sometimes in love there can be pain. And even if we need a little break, I know that you come back to me. You know that I'll come back to you. And that's when you start to feel my love.
Very baby. Mama, we made it. We right on time. It was a long way here, lakini tumefika fine. We'll be here for quite some time. Tafuta ukuta ya kujishikilia, maji teremusha kama River Nile. I'll do it for the streets, for my people, everybody that has been there before. It don't come easy. How to do with defeat? No retreat. Take one for the team, for you people. Wengine watajwe kwa wimbo, mabeshte wabebe kwa limo, and keep it real. Wine, broke off and wine. Ikikubamba ushike ukuta, wine, broke off and wine. Ikikwama ipake mafuta, wine, broke off and wine. Ebugeuka nishike matuta, wine, broke off and wine, broke off and wine. I made it in African time. I'm an African child, na niko ready kukupea good times. in African style. Organize, we legalize. Leo kila kitu ni surprise. Tesa bila ku apologize. Cause I do it for the streets, for my ghetto. Everybody that has been there before. It's never easy, hatujui defeat. Leo party kwenye streets with my people. Wengine kwa nyumba corridor. Drip tunatoanga kikosh, we keep it real. So wine, broke off and wine. Na ikibamba ushike ukuta wine. Broke off and wine. Na ikikwama ongeza mafuta wine. Broke off and wine. Geuka basi nishike matuta wine. Broke off and wine. Broke off and wine. Wine it. Design it. Organize it. Come and say wine it.
Our story today begins in Ganze location in Kilifi County. Now, a petition was filed in November 30th, 2020, before the High Court in Kilifi. And in Kilifi County, so this was in Malindi. And these are the details, or rather, these are the facts that led to this matter going to court. Now, PAK, whose name was hidden because of the nature of the case, was a 16-year-old adolescent. At the material time in 2020 when she was filing the petition, she was a Form 2 student at a mixed-day secondary school in Ganze sub-county, Kilifi County. PAK became pregnant after sexual intercourse with a fellow student. Now, upon experiencing complications with her pregnancy, including severe pain and bleeding, she then went to Chamalo Medical Clinic in Ganze location for treatment on the 19th of September 2019. On the same day, at around 5 p.m., Salim Mohammed, who was the second petitioner in the matter, received PAK at Chamalo Medical Clinic. She had complained of severe lower abdominal pain, vaginal bleeding, and dizziness. She reported that she woke up with intense abdominal cramps that were followed by mild vaginal bleeding, which increased over time. Now, at the clinic, PAK received emergency care from the second petitioner, Mr. Salim Mohammed, who, upon examining her, concluded that she had suffered a spontaneous abortion. Salim Mohammed performed a successful manual vacuum evacuation, after which PAK was in general fair condition. With mild lower abdominal pain, she was then allowed to return to the female ward to recuperate. Now, for Salim, he is a registered clinical officer with the Clinical Officers Council, and he had a current practice license at the time. His educational background is that he held a diploma in clinical medicine and surgery from the Kenya Medical Training College, KMTC, and was at the time employed at Chamalo Medical Clinic in Ganze sub-county. According to him, around 7 p.m. on 21st September 2019, plainclothes police officers stormed the Chamalo Medical Clinic without notice or permission. They demanded to be given PAK's treatment records, and subsequently they confiscated the same from Salim Mohammed. PAK and Salim, together with 2 female employees at Chamalo Medical Center, who were both working as cleaners, were arrested and taken to Ganze Police Patrol Base. The police officer at Ganze Police Patrol Base made PAK sign a statement written by the inquiring police officer. Now, the next day, on September 22nd, 2019, PAK was forced to undergo a medical examination at Kilifi County Hospital, where a medical examination form was filled out. The next day, on 23rd September 2019, PAK, who was a minor, was charged in Kilifi criminal case number 395 of 2019 with the offense of procuring abortion, contrary to section 159 of the Penal Code, with the particulars of the offense being that on the 19th of September 2019, at around 1900 hours at Game location in Game sub-county within Kilifi County with intent to procure her miscarriage, administered to herself drugs which led to her miscarriage. On the same day, Salih Mohammed was also charged in Kilifi criminal case number 395 of 2019 with procuring abortion contrary to section 158 of the Penal Code, with particulars that jointly with another not before the court on the 19th September 2019 at around 1900 hours at Game sublocation, Game location in Game sub-county within Kilifi County, he unlawfully administered unknown drugs into the body of PAK that led to her miscarriage. Salih Mohammed was in the alternative charged with the charge of supplying drugs to procure abortion contrary to section 160 of the Penal Code. The particulars of that were that jointly with another not before the court, on the 19th of September 2019 at around 1900 hours at Game sublocation, Game location in Game sub-county within Kilifi County, he unlawfully supplied drugs to one PAK aged 17 years, knowing that it was intended to be unlawfully used to procure the miscarriage of a woman. Now, concurrent to the criminal charges against PAK, the children's officer in charge of Ganze sub-county then made an application in children's case number 72 of 2019, where she sought to send PAK to a children's home from September 23, 2019 to October 17, 2019. On 18 February 2020, the children's officer for Ganze sub-county, one Mr. Mbogo, wrote a letter to the head teacher of PAK's school seeking to confirm her attendance at the school and further stigmatized her entire encounter with the criminal justice by labeling her as one charged with procuring an abortion and subject to criminal proceedings. 2 days later, on February 19, 2020, the children's officer summoned PAK from school together with her mother. On the 1st of March 2020, PAK's father received summons from the Senior Principal Magistrates Court, applied for by the children's officer in charge of Ganze sub-county, requiring him to bring PAK from school to court on 12th of March 2020. This is the beginning of this case that we look at, where a minor who was about 16, 17 years old at the time was accused of procuring an abortion, which was contrary to the penal code, since abortion is actually an offense under Kenyan law. That's the background. When we come back, we're going to be looking at the basis of her petition before the court. What exactly was she asking for from the court, and how did the court look at this? This is also an interesting case because she was not just being charged alone. She was also being charged with the health professional who helped her to obtain this abortion. So what are the facts here, and what was relevant to be considered? I think the other thing as well that is interesting here is that the children's office wrote to her school and indicated to her principal that she had been charged with an abortion offense and there was a criminal charge over her. Remember, this is a minor. So as we discuss this, there are going to be many layers to this, especially on how to deal with such matters when it comes to children, but also on the bigger question of how do we deal with abortion in Kenya. Let's get some music, and then when we come back, we'll look at the basis of her application in terms of the provisions of the law. Let's go.
Power Radio. Tune in and power up.
Soul generation, this is another one. Yeah, hey lovely, umekuja na nani? Juni meno kivilo na cheka so bubbly. Nipe mechi hata tupige ka friendly. One time nikuonyeshe mapenzi, but your auntie hapendi wanati. Kwanza kiniona anaonanga bangi, hata baba yako amenishika mashati, ila naomba wewe unipe nafasi. Yeah, the good times are calling. Why you ignoring? Don't say you're boring, and my heart is ready for you. The fun times are calling. I should be loving you. If I had to, I'm sorry, But tonight I came here for you, and I'm at your doorstep. Niko mavela na zimenisho ni wewe, nitapisha hadi babako watoke, jusitoki hapa mpaka we utoke, yeah, yeah. At your doorstep, niko vela na zimenisho ni wewe, nitapisha hadi babako watoke, jusitoki hapa mpaka we utoke, yeah, yeah.
Pana siko ketepa si ni kuzitoka ni katukomboka mipenda kama whisky wengine mavodka kuna wasopenda miti wengine mogoka na si majabu kiregezo natokwa usupa leo ni twingi koko chini unakopa look safi ni kari mekuja na chopa miokata na mapanga round ingine na shoka cheki rata safi kwanza nikiwa na Nike aka ni Jose Merindo kwa gami wifi yendo manzu nifanye vitu staki shaji report kwa kilisha jishtaki na taki ya kumshikia kwa maji ka samaki nipunguze wasiwasi ibaki niache kuna nukia na nanasi ama nina nami nikulisha nanasi.
I'm at your doorstep, niko mavela na zimenisho ni wewe, nitapisha hadi babako watoke, jusitoki hapa mpaka we utoke, yeah, yeah. At your doorstep, niko vela na zimenisho ni wewe, nitapisha hadi babako watoke, jusitoki hapa mpaka we utoke, yeah, yeah.
Now we're talking about abortion in Kenya and what the law provides. And today's discussion and conversation takes us to Kilifi County, where a 16-year-old had been charged in court with procuring abortion. And they had filed a petition before the High Court, a constitutional petition. And this petition was based on violations of the Constitution. It was based on Section 6 of the Health Act, the Penal Code, Section 4 and 5 of the Fair Administrative Action Act, among other various legislative provisions. Of course, we're going to be looking at this widely as we continue to have this discussion. Now, they had an argument with regards to Article 52 of the Constitution of Kenya. And they said that for them, the decision to charge and to admit the involuntary statement of PAK, okay, the police acted contrary to the provisions of Article 52 and Article 54 of the Constitution of Kenya. Now, you'll remember that in the background that we gave, part of what had happened is that she was taken to the police station and then she was forced to prepare a statement. And as she prepared that statement, she was then told, you know, this is what you have to say, these are the questions you have to answer. And then after that, she was forced to sign that statement. That statement was actually used in the case in court against her. Now, if you look at Article 50 of the Constitution of Kenya, this is the article of the Constitution that speaks about the right to a fair hearing. And it says that every person has the right to have any dispute that can be resolved by the application of law, decided in a fair and public hearing before a court, or if appropriate, before another independent and impartial tribunal or body. Now, as we discuss about the right to a fair trial, it includes, number one, the right to be presumed innocent until the contrary is proved. Number two, to be informed of the charge with sufficient detail to answer it. Number three, the right to have adequate time and facilities to prepare a defense shall be excluded if the admission of that evidence would render the trial unfair or would otherwise be detrimental to the administration of justice. Now, it's a principle of law in Kenya that if evidence is obtained against you in a manner that violates a right or it violates a fundamental freedom in the Bill of Rights, that evidence becomes inadmissible. It cannot be admitted. Why? Because it will render the trial unfair. So you can imagine, for instance, there is certain communication that is privileged, or this communication that is considered confidential. Let's say the communication between you and your doctor, the communication between you and your lawyer, your banking records. Those, if someone just goes and obtains that and then brings it as evidence, the court can actually say, wait a minute, this evidence has been obtained illegally and therefore it cannot be relied upon. So that was one of their grounds. The other thing they also sought to say is that they submitted that the police had violated, they stated that the magistrate's court had violated the petitioner's rights under Article 52A1 by finding that they had a case to answer and putting them on their defense. All right? They also submitted that Article 25C of the Constitution provides that the right to a fair trial cannot be limited, and that the ruling finding that they had a case to answer violated this right. According to them, forcing the petitioner, PAK, to undergo a medical examination was in violation of the right to a fair trial. The medical results are contrary to the rule against self-incrimination and the right to a fair hearing as enshrined in Article 49 and Article 50 of the Constitution of Kenya. So the argument here is, you'll recall that when PAK was arrested by the police, she was forced to undergo a medical examination, and those medical reports were then used to charge her with the offense of procuring an abortion. Okay? They also submitted that the section that the petitioners were charged under should be construed to conform with the alterations and exceptions provided for under Schedule 6 of the Constitution, and to ensure the implementation and application of Article 26, 4, and 43(1)A of the Constitution. Basically, what they were saying here is, the charges that have been read, the penal code is actually not aligned with the Constitution, because the Constitution had set out certain exceptions when it comes to the matter of abortion. All right? So that section of the penal code needs to be read to be in alignment with the Constitution of Kenya and also Section 6 of the Health Act. They also said that the respondents exercised their powers arbitrarily and contrary to public policy. So these were the police, the DPP, and even the court itself. Now, on the question of the Articles 26, 43, and 35, on Articles 26, 4, 43(1)A, and 43(2) of the Constitution, together with Section 35(3) of the Sexual Offences Act and Section 6 of the Health Act, the petitioners submitted that they set out the parameters within which a victim of sexual offences and experiencing pregnancy complications may access treatment. Now, they also were of the view that if you look at Article 49 of the Constitution, the circumstances surrounding the arrest of PAK amounted to a false arrest. Okay? And part of their core argument was that Article 26(4) of the Constitution provides that there are certain situations when abortion is permitted, and they held that the blanket criminalization of abortion was unconstitutional, and the court had actually made this finding before. Now, with regards to the emergency medical treatment that she received when she went to the clinic, they also submitted that under the Section 8 of the Health Act, the guardian of a minor can consent to treatment when the patient is a minor, in the absence of which care should be provided in the best interest of the child. So one of the arguments here is, what happens when a minor goes to hospital and they seek emergency medical treatment? Who then is to give consent? Because remember, a minor ordinarily should be accompanied by an adult who can then give consent on their behalf, because minors are people without capacity. So how is that dealt with? And for the petitioners, they argue that in the absence of that guardian consent, then care should be provided in the best interest of the child. Now, they also stated that under Article 27 of the Constitution, everyone is equal before the law and has the right to equal protection and equal benefit of the law, which includes the full and equal enjoyment of all rights and fundamental freedoms. And they held that those sections of the Penal Code impugned indirectly, those sections indirectly discriminate against women of reproductive age in Kenya. All right? The question of forced medical examinations also came up as well, and they said that that was in violation of Article 29, read together with Article 25A of the Constitution. The actions of the third respondent agents, okay, which are the police, they brought shame and contempt to PAK because she was dragged out of hospital and she was held for 2 nights with regard to her status as a minor and a patient in need of medical attention. They said that arresting and charging of the petitioners violated Article 47 of the Constitution because they had a right to fair administrative action. If the police had undertaken quality investigations, then they would have established the status of the abortion law in the country and that post-abortion care is not a known offense in Kenya. All right? The question of arrest was not actually going away because this was one of the key things that they sought to have the court deal with. The argument by the petitioners was that by arresting PAK from the health facilities, they prevented her from accessing healthcare. All right? Therefore, the police violated her right to health and her right to access emergency treatment. The other thing as well is because she was a child, okay, they violated the child's right to healthcare and the best interest of the child under Article 53, 1C and 2 of the Constitution of Kenya. She was also denied access to education while she was in detention, and the interruptions after she was released violated her right to education. In arresting her, they did not consider the best interests of the child. Now, the petitioners had laid out their case, which meant that the next person to now come and speak would have been the respondent. So what did the respondents say in their response? Now, it's important to note that the respondents in this case, we had the Attorney General as the first respondent, the Director of Public Prosecutions was the second respondent, the Inspector General of Police was the third respondent, and the Senior Principal Magistrate in Kilifi was the fourth respondent. So when we come back, we're going to be looking at what did these respondents say in their defense in this case. But for now, let's get some music. Remember, we're talking about abortion in Kenya, and while this is an emotive topic, the court helped us in this case to determine how do you deal with questions of abortion. What is post-abortion care, and should a person be charged in court with a crime of procuring abortion when they're receiving post-abortion care? Let's get some music, and then when we come back, we continue with this very, very important discussion on abortion. Remember, if you have any questions, you can just ask those questions on our YouTube live chat as well. You could tag us on the socials at Pawa Radio, at James WaNjeri, and we'll be happy to respond. This is Sheria Dive.
Pawa Radio. Tune in and power up.
One time, baby, you're my motivation. 2 time, what a beautiful creation. Thick thighs save lives. I'm stuck in your thighs, looking in your eyes, girl. Oh, you're my motivation. Oh God, what a beautiful creation. Thick thighs save lives. I'm stuck in your thighs, looking in your eyes, girl. I'm stuck in your thighs. It's about another thing. You know I love it, heavy, heavy, wavy, wavy. Thick thighs and a little belly, belly. Sweet mama ukidai niko ready. Si confirm niko spoil the weekendi. No speeding, steady, steady. Niko majin na skuma big machine. Tumeshikana tuko skin kwa skin. Ameni pin but nimejipin. Oh what a big bam bam. Nimeongeza size ya kitanda. Cause baby love, you're a wonder. You should know. 1 time, baby, you're my motivation. 2 time, what a beautiful creation. Thick thighs save lives.
I'm stuck in your thighs, looking in your eyes, girl. Oh, you're my motivation. Oh God, what a beautiful creation. Big thighs save lives. I'm stuck in your thighs, looking in your eyes, girl.
Size matters, nishampata toto matata, yani somebody's daughter. Umenifanya kwako nimekuwa stoka, vile umeumbika from the top to the bottom. Ushaipakata, ushaipaka, utaipata vile we unaitaka. Utaniua vile leo unaikata, nitaiua ile siku nitaipata. Oh, what a big bamba, nimeongeza size ya kitanda. Baby love, you're a wonder, you should know.
One time, baby, you're my motivation. Two time, what a beautiful creation. Big thighs save lives. I'm stuck in your thighs, looking in your eyes, girl. Oh, you're my motivation. Oh God, what a beautiful creation. Big thighs save lives. I'm stuck in your thighs, looking in your eyes, girl. I'm stuck in your thighs, looking in your eyes. I'm stuck in your thighs, looking in your eyes, girl. I'm stuck in your thighs. I'm stuck in your thighs. I'm stuck in your thighs, looking in your eyes, girl. One time, baby, you're my motivation.
Napitia na dinga ina speakers inatingisha madirisha, kuliko piti gala na digira kitingisha. Mwili kameshikwa na madhidhi yakiniambia na malizanga kama dishi ya familia. Uwezi wa iraia mwingine kami, mini kaa ninja na wapiga na mahit. Toka LA hadi mtazama beast, imekuwa ni ngori aje nimeitiwa chief. Hakuna pasha ni pambakahi, ilianza jana na ikiisha sahi. Ni Juma Mbanga wali kamingi na bado bash ungeshika kamiti. Kwa hivyo jaza tambla na kidri, ita mama pima kamivi na taska malt na maplis na kambili. Losi dance kwa flow na dance kwa ceiling. 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 Simba pati adi, hadi jalishangi. Kat medunga njumo kali ama pati pati. Niite bash mami, tuko ndani ndani. Bora inawaresh na drinks tuko ina dinati. Kuna vile umefurahisha majirani. Una wine komitisha for cousins. Umeraizisha temperature COVID-19. Ukitingiza mawezere ndani ya matight jeans. Sibagwagi napenda malight na madark skin. Mami when your body niko cheza kati. Punguza calories, ukiwine on me. Kutoka saa moja giz hadi mamoni. Hakuna basha ni pambakahi, ilianza jana na ikiisha sahi. Ni Juma Mbanga wali kamingi na bado bash ungeshika kamiti. Kwa hivyo jaza tambla na kidri, ita mama pima kamivi na taska malt na maplis na kambili. Losi dance kwa flow na dance kwa ceiling. 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 Inaweza shika kutoka na hii hadi Kongo, hadisi ya kwiti na Kongo. Leo kidriko mingi brother toa lock. Weta leta mbele mbele na madouble shot. Minasikia firi firi kama change ya so. Songesha hizo viti viti sunda dance floor. Mami twende chini chini mwaga jasho. Nikome kula firi firi na unawashwa. Ebu washo. Vele mwele kunjwa kama python. Vele mwele kunjwa kama nylon. Mina digi style na vibe yako. Sawa, leo si dance kwa flow na dance kwa ceiling.
Let's dance kwa flow na dance kwa ceiling. Man, how do these people do this? Anyway, we're talking about abortion in Kenya, and we're referencing a key decision of the High Court by Justice Ruben Nyakundi that was issued in Malindi High Court. Right now, what is the response of the government? One of the things the government said is that the issues that were being raised in this case had already been dealt with in other cases, and therefore the court should not be addressing them. The other thing they said as well is that Article 26(4) of the Constitution, its intention was to make abortion legal, save for instances when, in the opinion of a qualified health practitioner, the life of the mother is in danger or that there is need for emergency treatment or were permitted by any other written law. Now, according to them, it was therefore preposterous to argue that Article 26(4) repealed sections 158, 159, and 160 of the Penal Code, which deal with the offense of abortion. According to them, Article 26(4) only provides a limitation to the core right, and it has to be defined and it has to be interpreted as narrowly as possible so that it does not take away from the core rights stipulated under Article 26(1), 2, and 3. Article 26, therefore, buttresses the right to life and the law on abortion in Kenya. Now, according to the government, the law, as it emerges from Article 26, is that human life begins at conception and that abortion is therefore prohibited under Article 26(4) and sections 158 to 160 of the Penal Code. No reasons had been given by PAK and Salih Mohammed as to why sections 158, 159, and 160 should be declared unconstitutional. They had failed to demonstrate that the process within which Parliament used to enact the act or the law was unconstitutional or was flawed. They said that no attempt had been made to demonstrate that Parliament, in enacting the Penal Code, and specifically the sections claimed to be unconstitutional, failed to follow the due process. Now, you have to remember that part of this petition sought to stop the proceedings in the lower court. In the magistrate's court, there were proceedings ongoing on these charges of procuring abortion. And the government said that by trying to stop their prosecution, it was a clear indication that petitioners wanted the court to interfere with the independence of both the principal magistrate's court and the office of the Director of Public Prosecutions. Now, they also stated that the manner in which the investigation was conducted and was clear that no evidence had been adduced or produced to indicate that the medical examination was forced, malicious, and that it was conducted in a manner to demean PAK or infringe on her rights to dignity. The petitioners had failed to demonstrate that their trial was malicious and that the learned magistrate had demonstrated an open bias while conducting the trial of the two petitioners. They then asked that the petition be dismissed. Now, according to the DPP, according to the police, they stated that without the arrest of the petitioner, PAK and Salih Mohammed, then the police would not have been in a position to investigate the matter. The arrest and detention formed part of the investigation. On the question of the criminal charges, the DPP noted that having perused the police file, they noted that an offense had been committed and that PAK had recorded a statement. The statement had not been procured using torture or undue influence. According to the DPP, the statement did not amount to a confession and cannot be adduced as evidence by the PAK. It simply informed the police on what to further investigate. According to them, the DPP was mandated by law to effect the arrest and detention. And because Homer has come, let's take a music break, and then when we come back, we continue with this.
Pawa Radio. Tune in and power up.
Ni wakati wa kuachilia mambo ya kazi. Mimi huyo nishaitisha taxi. Kuna kitu kwenye hewa tonight. Haya basi, tunaenda wapi party kwa nani? Kuna drinks ama nipite maskani. Kata shika kata nuka tonight. Location iko set, singa ziko check. Madem na maboy wamekuja kuflex. DJ yako fresh, bedi wana sell. Kadi tumeshafa na ni time ya kuplay. Kuna tatu, kuna tatu. Tukicheza game ya poker. Kuna tatu. Tukilishwa tatu juu ya joka. Kuna tatu. Na makeki. Kuna tatu. Maji usibleki. Kuna tatu. Kabusu na kahatu. Kuna tatu. Baby kula tatu. Kuna tatu. Kula tatu. Kula tatu. Kula tatu. Kula tatu.
Yeah.
fine my guy. After he round, sitajiweza walai. But the night is young, but the form in a die. And the vibe is right, alright. Meanwhile, mziki imeshikana, watu wanawika, ngoma za wanavokali. Location iko set, mzinga ziko check. Madem na maboy wamekuja kuflex. DJ yako fresh, mabedi wana sell. Kadi tumeshafona ni time ya kuplay. Kula tatu, kula tatu. Ukicheza game ya poker, kula tatu. Ukilishwa tatu juu ya joka, kula matatu na makeki, kula tatu. Maji usibleki, pewa tatu. Kabusu na kahatu, mara tatu. Baby kula tatu, kula tatu. Kula tatu, kula tatu. Kula tatu, kula tatu. Kula tatu.
Wakikula tatu tunakula dawa. Much better now. Now, remember, part of what the government is saying in their response to this petition is that, number one, the statement by PAK that was taken at the police station, there was no proof that it had actually been induced. There was no force that was used. There was no torture. But the other thing as well that they said is that there was no medical evidence that PAK had been examined at Kilifi Hospital after being arrested by the police, okay? But they also said at the same time that the examination conducted was in the course of investigation, and it was well within the right of the police to conduct investigations. This is going to be one of the major talking points in this matter. Now, they also said that Salim Mohammed had not proven that he had the requisite skills and experience to conduct abortions. Now, if you remember, those of you who voted for the constitution that we have today, if you have voted in 2010, one of the key problems with that Article 26 of the Constitution was the term certified medical or qualified medical practitioner. What exactly does that mean? That was one of the key things, and I remember even when you would listen to the No campaigners, they said that one of the key issues is because that term is not clearly defined, it is open to misuse, okay? And in this case, the DPP was saying that Salim Mohammed had not proven that he had the requisite skills and experience to conduct abortions. According to them, he had simply annexed proof that he attended KMTC. But also according to them, the abortion conducted was not one mandated by the provisions of Article 26 of the Constitution, since there was no emergency at the material time. Okay? Now, the court then now was to determine what really are the questions to be answered here. Number one, was there a gap in the current laws to operationalize Article 26 of the Constitution? The second question was, are those sections of the Penal Code, sections 154, 159, and 160, that penalize abortion, are those sections unconstitutional? The third question was, had the constitutional rights of the petitioners been violated, and should the proceedings at the lower court be quashed? All right? Now, the court begins by looking at the right to life, okay? The right to life is in one sense antecedent to all other rights in the Constitution. Without life in the sense of existence, it would not be possible to exercise rights or to be the bearer of them. But the right to life was included in the Constitution not simply to enshrine the right to existence. It is not life as mere organic matter that the Constitution cherishes, but the right to human life, the right to share in the experience of humanity. The concept of human life is at the center of our constitutional values. The Constitution seeks to establish a society where the individual value of each member of the community is recognized and treasured. The right to life is central to such a society. Therefore, when properly understood, the right to life incorporates the right to dignity. So, the rights to human dignity and the rights to life are intertwined or entwined. The court was of the view that the right to life is more than merely existing. It is the right to be treated as a human being with dignity, because without dignity, human life is substantially dismissed. Without life, there cannot be dignity. Now, The court began by noting that in Kenya, where formal legal channels to obtain abortions are lacking or inaccessible, the victims, who are women, terminate their pregnancies by unscrupulous devices and substances. In the view of the court, in abortion cases, the pregnant women tend to avoid such medical examination on the ground that it violates their right to privacy, or for that matter, the right to human dignity, as provided under Articles 28 and 39 of the Constitution. The court also was of the view that those provisions, as they had been said in the petition, they suffer from a lack of guidelines relating to privacy and on how to reach a trained health professional as stipulated in Article 26.4 of the Constitution. And this is what I was talking about earlier, that there was a lack of guideline. When we are talking about a certified health practitioner, who exactly is that person? And so the judge was of the view that the protection of unborn life is an important motive for restricting abortion, and the Kenyan Constitution under Article 26.4 equates a pregnant woman's life with continued fetal development, thus making it as the single greatest impediment to medical abortion services. Now, although abortion is illegal in Kenya, the Constitution of Kenya and other international instruments that Kenya is part of provide a legal framework to reaffirm the reproductive rights of women. Now, keeping those in view of those rights, there was a special rapporteur on the right to the enjoyment of the highest attainable standard of health, specifically on women's right to sexual and reproductive health in international law. And this is what he stated. They said that women's rights to equality and to the highest attainable standards of health to enjoy the benefits of scientific progress and to healthcare services, including those related to reproductive and sexual health, are enshrined in international and regional human rights instruments, including the Program of Action of the International Conference on Population and Development. There's also the Beijing Platform for Action, which was adopted at the Fourth World Conference on Women, and there's the International Conference on Population and Development. They recognize that women's rights to reproductive and sexual health as being key to women's health. Now, when you discriminate against women in the area of health, when you discriminate against women in the area of health and safety, and you deny them their right to control their own bodies, that severely violates their human dignity, which, along with equality, is recognized in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights as a foundation of freedom, justice, and peace in the world. The court, of course, now begins by looking at what is the structure that has been provided, even in terms of international laws, on how women's rights are to be provided, how women's rights are to be safeguarded, and how they are to be protected. Now, one of the key things the court considered is that women's bodies are instrumentalized for cultural, political, and economic purposes, and this is rooted in patriarchal traditions. Now, instrumentalization occurs within and beyond the health sector and is deeply embedded in multiple forms of social and political control over women. It aims at perpetuating taboos and stigmas concerning women's bodies and their traditional roles in society, especially in relation to their sexuality and to reproduction. As a result of this, the court noted that women face continuous challenges in accessing healthcare and in maintaining autonomous control in decision-making about their own bodies. Understanding and eliminating the instrumentalization of women's bodies, which is based on harmful cultural norms and stereotypes, and its detrimental impact on women's health, is critical for change to occur. The court noted that because of Article 2.5 of our Constitution, there is a legality and an application of international law to our local circumstances here in Kenya. The first thing is, access to safe abortion services is actually a human right. Under international human rights law, everyone has a right to life, a right to health, and a right to be free from violence, discrimination, and torture or cruel, inhuman, and degrading treatment. Forcing someone to carry an unwanted pregnancy to term or forcing them to seek out an unsafe abortion is a violation of their human rights, including the rights to privacy and bodily autonomy. In many circumstances, the court noted that those who have no choice but to resort to unsafe abortions also risk prosecution and punishment, including imprisonment, and can face cruel, inhuman, and degrading treatment and discrimination in the exclusion from vital post-abortion healthcare. And in the view of the court, this endangers the life of the mother due to the inherent fear of prosecution by health professionals. So there's a lot of stigma that is associated with abortion, to the extent that even those who actually access abortion, they find that when they go to hospitals, there's a treatment they receive, or they're discriminated against in terms of treatment. And many of them will even not go ahead to the health facilities to obtain that medical assistance, okay? Now, the court found that inaccessibility of quality abortion care risks violating a range of human rights of women and girls, including the right to life, the right to the highest attainable standard of physical and mental health, the right to benefit from scientific progress and its realization, the right to decide freely and responsibly on the number, spacing, and timing of children, and the right to be free from torture, cruel, inhuman, and degrading treatment and punishment. Okay? Now, the court also was of the view that if you look, for instance, at the Human Rights Committee that is established under the United Nations, they note that there are social factors that must be addressed for women to be able to access maternal health services, okay? In the court's view, restrictive abortion laws, they inhibit quality improvements that might be possible to protect the women with unintended pregnancies. So here there's a question, of course, of unintended pregnancies that comes up. And the court is inviting the government to actually say, hey, wait a minute. In Kenya, the way things are, our laws are actually not giving clear guidance to us on how to deal with matters of abortion. But the court was of the view that restrictive abortion laws, coupled with lack of effective laws giving effect to Article 26(4) of the Constitution, exposes women and girls to mental and physical health risks that are often associated with unsafe abortions. And they also stigmatize women and girls who seek abortion, and it violates their right to life and the right to their highest attainable standard of health. Now, one of the key arguments when it comes to questions of abortion is the question of privacy and the freedom of choice. How does the court then navigate this question? Because this did come up. What happens when the privacy of the victim, or the privacy, in this case, of the petitioner, has been violated? How does the court approach that? When we come back, we're going to be talking about the right to privacy and freedom of choice as we continue to look at this decision by the High Court sitting in Kilifi, in Malindi, actually. Let's get some music, and then when we come back, Homa Ishindwe. Let's go.
From sunrise to sunset, all day and night. Power Radio.
You gonna choose? Why have you confused? DTX, you know. Na 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 na. Oh, that Friday feelings come again. Only good vibes and energy. We're gonna dance the night away. Me and my crew gon' tear it up tonight. Tell somebody, leo tupatane kileleni, tukaribishe wageni. Me and my crew gon' tear it up tonight. I'm setting myself free, ring the authorities. Shit talking jealousy won't take a toll on me. This is not your normal party, this is Vogue, there's a dress code. Every corner's getting flashy. Stay wise, stay woke. Utanipata kati kati. If you know, I guess you know. Every color on my mind, I'm gonna let it out tonight. That Friday feelings come again. Only good vibes and energy. We're gonna dance the night away. Me and my crew gon' tear it up tonight. Tell somebody, leo tupatane kileleni, tukaribishe wageni. Me and my crew gon' tear it up tonight. Na 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 na. Oh, excuse my behavior, please. I've let loose my boundaries. I'm on a trip, my trip's on a trip. Look how you got me high. I wanna touch somebody, I wanna love somebody. It's been my prayer, join if you dare. That Friday feelings come again. Only good vibes and energy. We're gonna dance the night away. Me and my crew gon' tear it up tonight. Tell somebody, leo tupatane kileleni, tukaribishe wageni. Me and my crew gon' tear it up tonight. Na 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 na, na 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 na, na 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 na. Oh.
What you gonna do? Who you gonna choose? Do I have you confused? Nothing's black or white. You see it as you like. If you stumble and hard to struggle, welcome to my mind.
That Friday feelings come again. Only good vibes and energy. We're gonna dance the night away. Me and my crew gon' tear it up tonight. Tell somebody, leo tupatane kileleni, tukaribishe wageni. Me and my crew gon' tear it up tonight. Na 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 na, na 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 na, na 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 na. Oh. That Friday feelings come again. Only good vibes and energy. We're gonna dance the night away. Me and my crew gon' tear it up tonight. Tell somebody, leo tupatane kileleni, tukaribishe wageni. Me and my crew gon' tear it up tonight.
My jabe, una meta meta, utakunywa nini? Wallet nimeleta, anyako yoteke imeweza, ukisuka chini, unatetemesa, atetetni, yengni, atetetni, unatetemesa, atetetni, yengni. Adoga pako nyawegi, atechimora gikiti, kakikelo no sheri, chunya kona na weri. Ase tetni, nikechinyonga gichwechni. Ase tetni, nikechinyonga gilavni. Unataka nini mama? Anagombo na neni. Okinyole di morita, adiritika gibeni. Ase tetni, nikechinyonga gichwechni. Ase tetni, nikechinyonga gilavni. My jabe, una meta meta, utakunywa nini? Wallet nimeleta, anyako yoteke imeweza, ukisuka chini, unatetemesa, atetetni, yengni, atetetni, unatetemesa, atetetni, yengni, atetetni, unatetemesa. Karibia, ringa wakuone, my dear, kutoka Kondele. Find me by the lakeside, girl baby by my side. Penda hiyo design, nimekamata yo behind. Oh, fungulia, bebe Mr. DJ, nimejinyakulia, figa namba 8. Tonight is tonight, starehe polite, nimejinyakulia, wacha nijigambe. Mama ya jabe, una meta meta, utakunywa nini?
Pass me that wallet. I shall swipe.
Yoteke imeweza,
Oh yes.
ukisuka chini,
Soka.
unatetemesa.
Tetni mama. Yengni mama. Tetni mama. Tetni mama. Signing out. Kijana Breezy Anchala. Salamu kwa watu wa Kisumu City. Watu wa Homa Bay.
Yes, that's Hat the Band, I believe. Unametameta Fantastic. Now, one of the key questions, as we've been talking about this abortion case that was in Malindi, is the question of privacy. Do you think that there are certain things that the government should have no business knowing about you? Or should the government just have full access to everything about you? Privacy is one of those things, especially in this social media age, where people are putting a lot of their lives online and making it publicly available. However, the general idea behind the right to privacy is that there are areas of our lives as citizens that are outside an intrusive sphere that neither the government nor the public should concern itself with. And the court said, in its opinion, there exists a direct link between a woman's decision to terminate a pregnancy with the constitutional right to privacy, since a matter concerning abortion should be left primarily to the woman who, in any circumstance instructive of spirit in Article 26 of the Constitution, bears the greatest responsibility should she decide to keep or to terminate the pregnancy. And the court actually clarifies and says the woman should have the choice and the ultimate decision carefully explored with a trained medical provider as to whether to terminate the pregnancy or continue with the same. This is the ultimate exercise and enjoyment of the freedom of choice and the right of privacy. That is what the court was saying with regards to that question of privacy. And it is important, as the court is saying, that a woman is accorded that right to do this in their privacy, so that even though the right to privacy is not absolute, but it can be protected against unjust interference. Okay? Now, in this case, PAK presented herself to Salim Mohammed, who performed a surgical operation, which may have been informed by the diagnosis of PAK. It was not also disputed from the fact that Salim Mohammed was a qualified healthcare provider that was duly licensed by the relevant body to practice medicine in Kenya. Presumably, he then falls within the meaning of Article 26(4) of the Constitution, which says, unless in the opinion of a trained health professional. Okay? He had a license from the KMTC and he was a clinical officer. Then, there was also the question of now the right to access to medical treatment that was prevented. And the court said, the court will be sending a signal to Parliament that if the statutory provisions, if the law under the Penal Code is not amended, it may as well be considered a threat or infringement to the rights of the pregnant woman as to the enjoyment of the reproductive rights. It is not in dispute that the state's important and legitimate interest is to protect the life of the unborn child and that of the mother where compelling circumstances permit to terminate the pregnancy. Who has the final say to establish the medical fact and viability of the fetus and the mother as a necessary congruent to preserve their right to life is in all aspects a decision duly made by the medical doctor or trained health professional. And so the court was saying that Parliament needs to draft a law which recognizes the right to abortion. All right? And the decision on whether a pregnancy should be terminated, that ideally should be a decision made by the medical doctor or the trained health professional, because it is their judgment that the law provides that these people's judgment is what we will rely on as we deal with that. The other question, of course, that came up, and I think the court touched on it a bit, is on the question of, are those sections of the Penal Code unconstitutional? Okay? The court considers this and says, first, it is actually in our constitution that the right to life begins at conception. Second, in the case of an emergency, upon certification by a medical doctor or practitioner, abortion is permitted to save a woman's life or health. The paradox is that access to what I call therapeutic abortion is typically impossible, more specifically to women in the rural setup. There may be even a struggle in the mind of the victims on how to seek medical treatment, arising out of a progressive miscarriage or a visioned act to terminate an unwarranted pregnancy. As part of addressing the challenges posed by the Penal Code sanctions, it is for the government, for the state, to guarantee women equal and non-discriminatory access to healthcare with standard procedures or protocols for the implementation of Article 26(4) of the Constitution. Okay? Indeed, the facts of the petition show there is evidence that access to abortion services before an authorized medical practitioner comes with it the risk of criminal sanctions. And this is now the problem. The Penal Code says that it is illegal to procure an abortion. It is illegal to use drugs that would end up in causing an abortion. Which means that if a person, let's say, has had, even if it was a miscarriage, or even if they have actually procured that abortion, going to hospital for post-abortion care means that they can actually be exposed to criminal charges. Okay? Because what they're doing by going to the doctor and speaking to the doctor is they're revealing that they have actually committed a crime, especially in the case where the abortion was self-induced. Okay? And it says, the court says that what has to be determined is whether preservation of the fetus signals the manifestation of the need for emergency treatment or the life of the mother is in danger is a decision that is not subjected to checks and balances within the hierarchy of professional health providers. Indeed, the court says that there is merit in the idea that the primary objective of the Penal Code sanctions on abortions without transformative legislative or policy framework may result in an arbitrary, unfair, and unreasonable considerations in initiating a prosecution. Okay? Because the law is actually not very clear on this, there is always a likelihood that what happens is that a woman, we're going to have a situation where you are criminalizing any woman found in the clinic of a trained health professional with suspicion of having committed a crime without inquiry as to the compliance of Article 26(4) of the Constitution, which is a threat to fundamental justice, right? In this case, you'll see that the police actually did not take time to understand what is it that brought PAK to this clinic. The treatment that PAK received, was that the proper treatment to have been received? There was no proof as well that another medical practitioner had been called to either agree with the decision that had been made by Salim Mohammed or to disagree with it. Now, according to the Constitution, there are 3 parameters within which procurement of an abortion is allowed in Kenya. Number 1 is that it has to be the opinion of a trained health professional. So it cannot be your opinion as a woman or as a man on whether an abortion is carried out, okay? It's the opinion of a trained health professional. Number 2 is that there's a need for emergency treatment. If emergency treatment requires that the pregnancy is terminated, then that is a parameter that can be followed. But number 3, there's also the question of if the life of the mother is in danger. For abortion to be considered unlawful, it must breach those 3 conditions that have been set out. Okay? Now, who is a health professional? Under the Health Act, a health professional is one with a formal medical training at the proficiency level of a medical officer, a nurse, midwife, or a clinical officer who has been educated and trained to proficiency in the skills needed to manage pregnancy-related complications in women, and who has a valid license from the recognized regulatory authorities to carry out that procedure. In this case, Salim Mohammed was able to prove his qualifications as a health professional. The respondents had failed to provide evidence in opposition to that, to show that this Salim Mohammed is not actually qualified. So, those being the rules, those being the strict rules within which the question of abortion can be done, in this case, Salim was actually properly qualified to give that decision or to make that decision. And the court says the rationale of the right in Article 26(4) is obvious, given the fact that the police, the Director of Public Prosecutions, or any other criminal justice actor for that matter, would not be able to determine the unlawful act of omission stipulated in the Penal Code on procuring abortion without reference to those provisions of the Constitution. It is in this climate that the sanctity of life is protected. I consider an essential element to this claim as the right of women to make their own decision, uncoerced by the state or others, so long as they bring themselves within the provisions of Article 26(4) of the Constitution. And what are those provisions? Number one, there's an opinion of a health professional. Okay. Number two, the health of the mother is in danger. Okay. Those are the things that we need to look at. Are you within that period? Is termination good for the mother's health? All right. Is there a medical opinion that has been given by a medical professional? The other question was whether those proceedings now in the lower court should be quashed, because remember they were still undergoing charges now for abortion. One for procuring abortion and the other person for making it possible. Now, the court was of the view that considering everything we've spoken about today, the petitioners are at odds as what constitutes a threat to the woman's life as an allowable reason for abortion, as a country lacks laws and policies that facilitate access to safe abortion. In the premises, I find that the charges and proceedings were unfounded and should be quashed, as there was no evidence that the abortion was conducted outside the threshold of Article 26(4) of the Constitution. So what has happened here? The court has said, because the laws are not making it clear under what conditions an abortion is then legal, because there is no law that has been created to guide us, these people, when they were taken to court, they could not even determine, okay, you're charging us with this, but how have you decided that my opinion as a doctor was not the correct opinion? How have you decided that the life of the mother was not in danger? How have you decided that this was not, for instance, a miscarriage instead of an abortion? So for that reason, those charges were quashed. The other question that we'll be coming back to answer is the question of constitutional rights. Were their constitutional rights violated? Because one of the things they sought from the court was to say that our constitutional rights were violated. So let's get some music, and then when we come back, we deal with that question. We are almost done with this show. My God, should have this show the whole day. Kujichocha manze. Let's go.
From sunrise to sunset, all day and night. Power Radio.
Tabidi wanijue, basi weka mkono juu. Hey, vile na bambam, police wana ubaya. Demo wako vile mahanjam, na misi na ubaya. Koseo nite handsome, uskizo ni hekaya. Felicia na Lisa, even though mini liwa acquire. Tulikuwa na Pamela, shule moja ndani ya kwaya. Squeezy vile na meza, mara moja utagwaya. Na nanringia sana flat, tami hana taya. Hakuna kila kitu hana gani haya. Mtoto wangu akiitwa KU mtakataa. Hakunaga masomo KU mmekataa. Unapeleka mtoi first year introduction. Baada ya wiki mbili ashajua reproduction. Ndovu ni kuu, tabidi wanijue. Basi weka mkono juu. Yes you. Ndovu ni kuu, tabidi wanijue. Basi weka mkono juu. Yes you.
Yeah, na pull up nangalia kalanguin kana fanyanga Safcom. Liku kasiku lakini kombato ni custom. Penga nalia, mi upenda vile una lap njon. Baju sitaki kolona girl, please put your mask on. Nekwendete Pamelo meza katembe. Anapenda lollipop, analamba kapele mende. Lazima kwe mukamba, jini ya pili ni mwende. Minasikia mademu wakamba wanapenda make. Kamekari bambam, kana kaka mamaraya. Nakashotu nenda London, but kumbe ni Odhaya. Ndakusaje kupenda tam na jini ya kwanza Brian. Dema naka screen ya Samsung, so vidole go required. Usichomeke you ama studio pata PhD. Tupatana nao Kilimani kama CST. Social media, the social studies. So nowadays ukitaka kutigidha we mambie mkafanye GHC. Wala wamesoma ndio sampuli ya homology. Hata reproduction pia sin topic kwa biology. Bora kuna chemistry, Pamela can just follow me. Vile ndovu kubwa noma sana nyaka buogoji. Sina marafiki staki mbogi ni screw. Munataka mblande kiasi ndio munisu. Isiti ya usherati tabia mbovu ni true. Big up to CRISPR, washajua ndovu ni cool. OG.
Akiwalayo shatu juu. Basi basi weka mkono juu. Yes you ndovu ni kuu, akiwalayo shatu juu, basi weka mkono juu. Yes you
Okay, mbebe, ashanembe napenda form za kunlenga-lenga. Anakamlami but nami amesoteka. Nimezoea njerinda, luna violeta. Nimezoea msupa kinroli ya kavela. Atena gorilla wall siwezi penya. Unadai mate na uko form za ketepa. Ka uwezi buy your drinks basi kwenda. Mina kupa kiss kwa clis na kill your status.
Tabidi wanijue, basi weka mkono juu. Yes you
Hey, okay, I say manzi yangu kwa gasumu, hey, either nimepagao ni juju.
Cocktail ya Masai na Mkikuyu, akona gapo ameno na bado shikie nchuyu.
Ama ni lugha inaga lugu, Kiswahili ninayo hadi Kizungu.
Vile meni bamba mshiroe mabebogen shumartae, and I'm the bad man she loves.
Foot traps ukweka kwa mood, kavile champagne usavwanga nude.
Ay, champagne uonjaka juice, nupiga kataska juu, ndovu ni kuu. Itabidi wanijue, basi weka mkono juu. Yes you
Ndovu ni cool. And I see there's a question here from Damaris. Damaris is asking, hey, thanks for the topic. What does the law say about abortion in minors? E.g., if God forbid someone's minor gets pregnant and they know she's a child who can't bring up a child, where does the law stand? Now, of course, Damaris, if you look at Article 26 of the Constitution, it says abortion is not permitted, 26.4, unless, number one, in the opinion of a trained health professional, number two, there's need for emergency treatment, or number three, the life or the health of the mother is in danger, or number four, it's permitted by any other written law. Now, those are the only conditions. A minor being pregnant is not considered a reason for termination of that pregnancy unless you can show that there is an opinion of a trained health professional for that termination, there is need for emergency treatment, therefore you have to terminate. The life of the health of the minor mother would be in danger. And as we have said, the law has not yet come. We only have the Constitution and other laws. So part of what the court has been saying is you guys need to create new laws that can guide us better. All right. Now, part of the thing as well is, were the rights of the petitioners violated? You'll recall that PAK was actually arrested while on the hospital bed, and she was removed from the hospital bed and taken to the cells where she stayed for 2 nights. Now, the court said that since there is a dispute with regards to the condition of PAK at the time of arrest, the court needed to determine, number one, was she medically fit to be detained? Number two, was she forced to sign a statement she did not write? Number three, was she interrogated alone? And number four, was she subjected to a medical examination by force? Now, PAK was able to produce some documents, being her treatment card and her medical examination report from Kilifi County Hospital, as a proof of post-abortion medical care. It was not in dispute that she had undergone a medical procedure before the arrest. Okay? The court said that it was upon the police to show that she was given medical care when in detention by way of producing medical treatment notes or records. A failure to do that would mean that her rights to reproductive health care were infringed by the agents of the respondents, in this case, the police who had arrested her. Upon her arrest, she was held in custody without access to medical care despite her conditions. The respondents failed to prove that they provided her with the access to healthcare and especially reproductive healthcare. This was a gross violation of her rights under Article 43 of the Constitution, and her arrest was degrading and inhumane. So the court found that it was crystal clear that her rights under Article 25 and 28 were grossly violated. All right? Now, one of the things here, when we talk about now the question of fair trial, remember, the petitioners were saying we did not actually have fair trial. We were not allowed the right to a fair trial. Because one of the things they said, especially PAK said, is that I was forced to make this statement at the police station. And the court said that admitting that involuntary statement and using it to charge PAK was a violation of Article 52 and 4 of the Constitution. All right? It is true that in providing a test of imminent danger for the exercise of Article 26.4, there's good sense that the pregnant woman and the trained health professional would, in their decision, exercise their powers to protect the constitutional right to life. Okay? The court, in determining the issues in this petition, says that the facts and the context of this case raise the bar as to the chronology of events arising out of a decision of a medical doctor or a health doctor, provider, or a healthcare provider acting in his capacity to give medical opinion to his or her patient on termination of a pregnancy. I presume the constitutional regulatory framework in Article 26.4 is relevant in the context of the alleged abortion conducted on 23rd of September 2019. And so the court was of the view that here there is a serious case of violation of constitutional rights. And the court actually was noting that, for instance, in other cases, I think there was an American case where where the court was saying that there might be cases of a woman going to a doctor in a state of great emotional upset, distraught, and verging on the fringe of insanity. If in such a case a doctor said, if I let this go on and I let her proceed to deliver, she'll be a mental wreck if not dead, and he then relieved the woman of her pregnancy, he committed no crime. So the way the law is now, the way it has been set up, means that the decision on that termination will heavily rely on the medical professional. And courts, the police or the director of public prosecutions, if they're going to prosecute, they have to show why that was the wrong decision to be taken. And the only way to counter a medical opinion is to get another medical opinion. And then the court can now go ahead to determine between these two, who should we believe, and so that we can then make a decision whether this was the correct procedure to be applied in this case or it was not. The easy way to actually deal with this is for Parliament to do its work and to create the law, to bring in the law, to provide the law that, because part of what the court has said is that there's a gap, there's what we call a lacuna, there's a gap that exists in the law, because when we are determining whether this should be an abortion or not, there's a lot of leeway that is being given to the medical practitioner. There are no guidelines on that. There are no guidelines on what risk to health means. There are no guidelines on what, for instance, when you look at that Article 26, there are no guidelines on what sort of emergency treatment that would be. So because of that, we're always going to find ourselves in this space where it's my word against yours, and there's that sort of tug of war. So the best way to deal with this is through Parliament. But as the law stands now, it's going to be very hard to prosecute people for procuring an abortion, especially when they have come to obtain post-abortion care, unless you're doing that and part of the evidence by the government or by the prosecutor is that another medical practitioner would not have gone ahead to make that same decision. The court held that the forced medical examination in which PAK was subjected to by the police violated her rights and Article 25 on freedom from torture and cruel, inhuman, and degrading treatment. The right to private communication between a patient and their personal doctor is guaranteed and protected under Article 31. To that extent, the police and the Director of Public Prosecutions are prohibited from criminalizing such communication unless compelled by the due process of the court. The communication between a patient and their doctor, that is covered under privacy. It cannot be the basis of charging someone unless a court order has been issued and you've been able to obtain that information. All right? Now, the court also held that the medical doctor or the trained health professional licensed to practice medicine in Kenya by the relevant authorities while exercising their skill, expertise with due care and attention, good faith, inferred from the diagnostic carried out on examination of a patient, shall not be guilty of an offense. If this was your medical opinion, and that medical opinion is based on your training, it's based on due care and attention, it's based on good faith, then you should not be charged. Because remember what was happening here is the person who got the abortion was brought to court together with the person who helped her procure that abortion, the medical services provider. And the court is saying you cannot bring doctors to court to charge them, especially when they're doing their work, and the Constitution actually allows them to be part of the decision makers in determining whether an abortion will be carried out. Sawa. And with that, their case was dismissed, their case was thrown out, and so PAK, this decision was being issued in 2022. As of 2022, I believe she was already an adult, and wherever she is, we hope that she is living a good life. And even Mr. Salim Mohammed, for his experience, having been the one who was assisting her and the one who also had to suffer a lawsuit as well for his services. We hope they're doing well wherever they are. That's the law in Kenya with regards to abortion. Remember, abortion is only allowed in Kenya in those conditions where, number one, it's in the opinion of a trained health professional. Number two, there is a need for an emergency treatment. Number three, the life or health of the mother is in danger. Or number four, if it's permitted by any other written law. And remember, snatching someone from the hospital bed to take them to the cells to charge them with a crime actually violates their human rights. And when you're dealing with children, it's always important to ensure that you act in the best interest of the child. That's it from Sheria Dive today. It's now 3 p.m. and the show has come to an end. Why do good things come to an end? Well, that's just life. Remember, we're back here on Monday, and on Monday, we try to look at some of the trending topics. I think on Monday, we're going to be talking about the seed bill. Do you know there's an attempt to ban farmers from sharing indigenous seeds? What is this? What is happening in the agricultural sector? Because I think this week on Monday, we were talking about the livestock bill and the fact that it's introducing so many institutions when we are being told to cut down on wastage and all that. So what's happening in that area? There's a court case, and we're going to be looking at that as well. So remember, if you want to find out more about that question of seeds and whether seeds can be shared and all that, and what the court and what the parliament is trying to do, we can meet here on Monday at about 5 p.m. I'll be right here and I'll be waiting for you. See you on Monday. Have a lovely weekend. Be safe. Get out of the house. Get some sun if it does come out. But also, just get out and look at the sky. Usikae kwa nyumba sana, okay? It's not good for your mental health. Thank you. God bless you from Flozy and I in studio. We hope you have a lovely weekend.
Power Radio. Tune in and power up.
Tunapita kama moshi na kabla tuzame mchangani, kuna kushinda na kufeli. Oh, inabidi ujijue tofauti ya mwalimu na mwanafunzi ni ujuzi na ujuaji. Oh, it's unbelievable that we make it this far. Undeniable, we see the promised land from afar, and it's so beautiful. No, they can't touch the fire, and you know it's not in vain. Steady tripping through the pain. Oh, man. Steady rocking on the midnight train. Steady rocking on the midnight train. Oh Lord, oh Lord. Steady rocking on the midnight train. kuzama. Oh no, maji yalipozidi unga, hawakudhani tutafika. It's unbelievable that we made it this far. Undeniable to see the promised land from afar. So beautiful, they gon' know who we are. They keep on walking in the rain. Kuna blessings in the pain. Steady rocking in the midnight train. Steady, ready, ready, ready. Steady rocking in the midnight train. Oh Lord, steady rocking on the midnight train. To Zion, to Zion, to Zion. It's a narrow road to Zion. Nothing will ever deny us. Whatever it takes, keep on rocking. Whatever it takes, keep on moving. To Zion, to Zion, to Zion. Yeah, 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 yeah. Steady rocking on the midnight train. Steady rocking on the midnight train. Oh Lord, steady rocking on the midnight train. To Zion, to Zion, to Zion, to Zion. Steady rocking on the midnight train. Steady rocking on the midnight train. Oh Lord, steady rocking on the midnight train. To Zion, to Zion.
This is Sheria Dive on Power Radio with me, James WaNjeri, where we take a deep dive into the law, discussing all things legal and educating you on how the law impacts your life.